Okay.
Good to go. Okay, I'm going to call the special committee of the whole meeting to order at 10:37 on June 22nd. And I'll hand this over to Jody.
Thank you. Please note, council meetings, including committee of the whole meetings and special committee of the whole meetings, are streamed live and recorded on YouTube. Attendees acknowledge that in accordance with Section 20 Sub 2 of the Access to Information Act and Section 4 Sub C of the Protection of Privacy Act, names, addresses, and other details provided when speaking at the council meeting will be publicly shared. Should you have any questions related to the collection or disclosure of personal information, please contact the Legislative and Advisory Services Division for the Town of High River by sending an email to atip@highriver.ca. That is ATIPP@highriver.ca.
Perfect, thank you, Jody. All right, we'll go on to item number 2, which is the adoption of the agenda. Be it resolved, the committee of the whole adopt the agenda for the special committee of the whole meeting, council engagement session on June 22nd, 2026 as presented. Can I get a motion from Councillor Cooey?
I'll give you that motion.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, item number 3, we'll move on to business and we'll turn this over. Do we really have to? All in favor? Item number 3. I'm going to turn this over to Sarah, V3, and Corey Armfelt, who will jump right into business.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
No mayor.
Chairperson, sorry, Chairperson of the Council. My name is Corey Armfelt. I'm your interim planning manager, and I'm here with Sarah Peck, your senior planner, to review some of the details of the Northeast Area Structure Plan and where we have been in the preparation process where we're at today. If we could move on to the next slide, please. So our agenda, our agenda this morning is about half an hour to 35 to 40 minutes of formal presentation, leaving time for some question and answer period after that. We've got an introduction, about 5 minutes, with a project update, technical study overview, about 10 minutes, draft area structure plan overview, about 20 minutes, and then some next steps and closing comments. So where the project has been to date is there was technical studies and background research done at the beginning. That led to one round of public engagement, which led to a concept plan development around a year ago, starting in kind of June 2025 and really moving right up until a couple of days ago when that final concept was identified. Some supporting documentation, some additional supporting reports were done around the timeline of March and April of 2025. Moving into the second round of public engagement earlier this year in February of 2026. And then subsequent to that, there was some ASP refinement, identification of policies and putting together the document early this spring, and leading us to where we're at today with a third round of public engagement scheduled for tomorrow with the landowners and public and yourselves today. And then subsequent to this, we anticipate moving into the approval process in the fall of 2026, after summer 2026. So just to check in on what those engagement processes have been to date, there's been a variety of communication methods undertaken with social media posts, raising awareness, a project website, email outreach to residents and landowners, and a communications log that was undertaken by your consultants, identifying any consultation and communication that came in that wasn't through one of those other approaches. Engagement activities to date was a public survey, an open house that we are anticipating for tomorrow, and the landowner meeting anticipated for tomorrow, and then the council information session today. And again, there was a couple of rounds of reporting back and what we heard documents that have been posted on the project website. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to continue.
Yes, thank you. So the draft Northeast Area Structure Plan was circulated to members of council and to the Northeast ASP property owners on June 8th. And the draft will also be posted tomorrow on the town's website. Next slide. 4 technical reports were completed to support this ASP. Those were the water report, the sewer report, the stormwater report, and the transportation report. Next slide. Those studies make up the functional servicing report. The consultants have also completed the desktop biophysical report, the phase 1 environmental site assessment, the desktop geotechnical report, the desktop historical assessment, the traffic impact assessment, and the market analysis. The noise study is still in progress. Next slide. The next few slides are showing what is inside of the draft ASP and what has changed since round 2. Next slide. As a reminder, the ASP is a statutory policy framework adopted by bylaw which sets land use, mobility, and servicing direction, but an ASP does not approve development or funding, and it does not force immediate development. Next slide. This slide shows all of the core principles of the ASP, which are integrated land use, housing for all, connected and multimodal mobility, vibrant public realm, enhanced natural areas, parks and open spaces, prosperous economy, and phased, flexible, and adaptive growth. Next slide. The Northeast ASP is projected to be home to about 8,000 people at full build-out. Next slide. 50% of the planned area is designated for traditional neighborhood. Next slide. And then 26% of the planned area is designated for service and employment. Next. This was the concept plan from round 2, and then it shows how the plan has evolved to round 3 after presenting 2 potential designs to the committee of the whole. The following slides will go through those changes. Next slide. The frontage road has been pushed closer to the highway to avoid conflict with development that has already taken place. We are still investigating the pipeline easement. Great. 20th Street Northeast is no longer shown as a through street, and that is to prevent trucks from taking that route directly south through a residential neighborhood. Next slide. The green space on the west side has been adjusted slightly. Next. And the size of the neighborhood center area has been reduced. Next, we will go through some policy highlights. And we will focus on these key sections throughout the next slides. On the next slide. Great. For traditional neighborhood district policy highlights, this land use is going to allow for a mix of residential, home occupations, institutional uses, and neighborhood scale retail consistent with the town's land use bylaw. The minimum density is 20 units per hectare, and that is in accordance with our town plan. Neighborhoods will incorporate unique elements such as parks, public spaces, and cultural features to create a strong sense of place and reflect local identity. Next slide. The next slides will go through employment area policy highlights. Thank you. There are two employment areas within this area structure plan, employment area 1 and 2. Employment area 1, shown here, is intended to transition over time from existing country residential and ad hoc commercial uses to an organized business park. While some country residential parcels may remain for the foreseeable future, the plan encourages future development to align with the ASP vision. Then employment 2, also shown to the north, is mostly vacant at this time and is to be developed as a comprehensive, fully serviced employment area. Next, please. This is employment area 1. Existing country residential homes and businesses may remain until the property is redeveloped. When redevelopment occurs, any new development must comply with the policies and requirements of this ASP. When a property is subdivided or a development permit is issued, landowners will be required to dedicate any public road right-of-way identified in this area structure plan. New subdivisions shall not be approved prior to full servicing. New residential homes shall not be approved prior to full servicing. New individual on-site septic systems and water systems shall not be installed unless it can be proven to the town that replacement of an existing system is required. And finally, all interim and temporary developments must comply with the ultimate design of the lands subject to this area structure plan, including future roads, rights-of-way, parks, and servicing. Also for employment area 1, the following interim and temporary developments may be permitted at the discretion of the town's development authority. Construction of temporary non-residential buildings with limited water and wastewater requirements. Construction of unserviced non-residential buildings. Additions to existing residential buildings and home-based businesses. Next slide. At the time of subdivision or development, landowners must provide the town with a concept plan or master plan for the subject site and show how that site and the proposed development will connect any adjacent sites and future roads and developments. Next, we will pivot to employment area number 2. All areas within employment area 2 will be fully serviced with municipal water, sewer, and storm servicing. Interim servicing options will not be considered. There must be an adopted neighborhood outline plan before subdivision or development. Next, we will move to the neighborhood center high street policies. The high street area shall be designated with wide sidewalks, street trees, seating, lighting, and weather protection to support year-round activity and contribute to a pedestrian-oriented environment. The high street should be planned and developed as a mixed-use corridor, incorporating retail, service, or similar uses in a compact pedestrian-oriented format. Mixed-use buildings along the high street shall provide active, ground-oriented ground floor frontages, corner lots with key frontage locations, shall include ground-level commercial or retail-oriented retail uses, and there are further policies to be seen in that section of the area structure plan. Next slide, please.
Moving on to some of the technical requirements that went into the area structure plan. Looking first at the transportation side of things, there was a transportation impact assessment that was prepared by V3 within the entire study area, the 316 hectares, looking at a full build out to 2050. So as expected, the intersections at the north off of 534, 5th Street and 20th Street do require some upgrading work. Specifically widening of 5th Street and 20th Street to 4 lanes each south of Highway 543. And then again, some retiming of the intersection at Highway 2A and 543 related to a revised truck routing. With recommended upgrades, the road network can safely and efficiently support the full area structure plan build out to 2050 with those improvements based off of phasing of development. On to the next slide, the functional servicing studies. There was functional servicing studies that looked at the stormwater, the sanitary system, and the domestic water system. And I'll be moving into each of those. The first of those is the potable water, the domestic water system. So it has been found that the area can be serviced through on-site 300 millimeter water main networks connecting to the Hampshire Way and Hampton Hills infrastructure. The system pressures are generally acceptable. However, fire flow requirements for the school site, mixed use, and service and employment areas cannot be met without sprinkler systems, even with some off-site upgrades. So long-term water system performance can be improved through future looping, as identified in the utility master plan, but these upgrades do not remove the need for sprinklers in those higher demand land uses, with an estimated water servicing cost of approximately $7 million. Within the studies themselves, there is 30% contingency that have been added onto the estimates. So that $7 million does include that 30% contingency pricing. Moving on to the sanitary sewer. So the sanitary was designed with 250 millimeter to 750 millimeter piping draining south to the Hampton Hills lift station. At full build out, of course, at 8,000 new residents, the area exceeds the existing lift station capacity, requiring an upgrade to the regional Hampton Hills lift station. And with the lift station and force main upgrades, those would be done at the detailed design, so a little bit further down when the actual area structure plan is adopted and you get into the outline plan stage of things. And that is estimated at about $13 million for the full sanitary servicing, again with the 30% contingency. Stormwater. Stormwater is the most expensive item that was identified in the entire servicing strategy. There has been a plan developed to have a major and minor system accommodating the 1 in 100 year rainfall events based off of pre-development rates. It does require a 133,000 cubic meter addition to an existing storm pond or a new storm pond that would discharge into the Little Bow Canal via lift station. The most expensive item related to the stormwater servicing is that lift station and the construction of the storm pond. And it has been determined that with the expansion of the storm pond or a new storm pond and that lift station, that the area can be accommodated. And again, that pricing is almost at $40 million, which approximately $20 million of that being identified as the additional storm pond and the lift station. So some summary items is that the area is currently not serviced by the town, so it will require the extension of water, wastewater, and stormwater infrastructure. The infrastructure extensions and upgrades are to be triggered by development and not on speculative expansion. The developers would be responsible for funding the system expansions and system improvements. And the town is responsible for coordinating the long-term infrastructure planning and system integration. So as the flow as to what's next related to the time of development is we're at the area structure plan stage now. What would happen is interested parties would get together to prepare neighborhood outline plans that would match the intents of the area structure plan. That would come to the town for consideration and approval. Subsequent to that, or coinciding with that, there would be a rezoning process as well. So the land was rezoned into the specific district designation that it was intended for. Subsequent to rezoning, an application for a subdivision could be put in. Part of that application for subdivision, no doubt, will be a development agreement identifying the infrastructure upgrades. Once that was through and those infrastructure upgrades were done, then construction could actually begin within those outlined plan areas with the issuance of development permits. So again, just where we are at now, we're quite close to the end of this process with the draft area structure plan, and have had some rounds of public engagement, and really we're looking at feedback from council, and specific feedback from council and residents and landowners today and tomorrow to tweak the existing policies that are there to move it towards an approval process. And that is the end of our presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Who's running the meeting?
James is. How about we go into some questions from councilors?
Perfect. So I just want to understand, so it's a little bit challenging in the fact that when we look at the traditional neighborhood, well, maybe it's not. When we look at the traditional neighborhood, there's about 3 landowners, if I'm correct, maybe 4. When we look at the employment district, there's a number of, which always presents challenging when we're moving forward. So obviously recognizing probably not going to be a lot of change in that area, in any area for quite some time. So I'm just trying to understand it from the employment district neighborhood. So in order to subdivide, I guess my question is, how will it play out? I own one of those pieces of land. I want to subdivide and create another employment opportunity on the east side. Obviously, there's not going to be a road for a while either. So what are the challenges they will face? Can they allow access to that property through their own, should they choose to? I guess what concessions are we going to offer those people to move forward to do things on their properties before more of the build out of this subdivision? We've encouraged this ASP so they could move forward, so I just want to make sure that they're able to move forward.
Yes, that's a great question. I think I would to answer this question, I'm going to be focused on sections 4.3.8 of the ASP, and Jonathan, our consultant, is here as well if he has additional points that he'd like me to bring up. But I'm just looking at page 46 of the draft area structure plan, and it goes through interim servicing, subdivision, and development policies. So first of all, let's talk about what would happen if there was someone that wanted to do a new subdivision. So right now our policies state that new subdivisions are not allowed before full servicing except where the subdivision is required solely to facilitate a change in ownership. So I think that speaks to something that you were talking about. If the person wanted to facilitate a change in ownership for a new employment opportunity, like you were stating, that would be allowed. Also, it speaks to boundary adjustments, lot consolidations, and other reconfigurations that do not create an additional parcel. Then it also speaks to new residential dwellings, because of course there are some residential developments in that area, and our policies right now as they're drafted are very clear that we would not allow further residential dwellings to be approved before full servicing, but we do allow renovations to existing ones. Then, as you were saying, we don't have full servicing right now, so these businesses are going to have to use septic or water wells. So in our policies, it says that new individual on-site septic systems and water wells shall not be installed unless it can be proven to the town that replacement of an existing system is required. So that really goes hand in hand with the policy of not allowing subdivisions unless we're talking about a boundary adjustment. So we're not creating new parcels because we know that all of the parcels right now have their own on-site water and wastewater systems, but we are giving that flexibility if someone needs to, for a technical reason, to replace it, that's completely fine. Then,
Can I just stop you
Yes,
for 1 second,
absolutely.
Sarah? So I've asked to subdivide my land from the east portion, west portion and east portion.
Mhm.
So I want to be able to create a new commercial or employment development here.
yeah,
I can't do that without water and sewer.
that's right. You would only be able to do a lot line adjustment, not create a new parcel. It does talk about not creating a new parcel, but you could do a lot line adjustment if that might work.
Can you explain to me what a lot line adjustment is?
If, let's say that you already own two parcels, like maybe your lot is already subdivided into two, if you wanted to change the boundaries, so one's getting bigger and one's getting smaller, you could do that, but right now, as our policies are drafted, and certainly this is just a draft form, things can change, it does speak to not allowing additional parcels to be subdivided prior to full servicing. And I think the reason the town was going in that direction is because the town wants to ensure that ultimately we do get these parcels on full municipal servicing. But the reason but we allowed that flexibility for boundary adjustments because we do understand that people in this community possibly own multiple parcels, and we wanted to give them that flexibility to change where the lot boundary literally is, to move things one way, to move things the other, but not create additional parcels. That's how it's drafted right now.
Do we have any idea how many lots out there do have the lot differentials where it's subdivided?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there
I'll
any?
just look up a map, but I think I can think of at least 3 property owner individuals or couples that have that.
Yeah, I guess where I'm kind of getting the kind of the hesitation is we know this is a long-term plan and we need to look at it long-term, but we have people wanting to do short-term. And without water and sewer, we're kind of, I think, tying their hands.
Can water and sewer, like, does the whole area need to be done, both sides of the road at this point, or can it, like,
We can definitely do it phased.
Okay.
Phasing is possible from an engineering perspective.
Because the one of the main pipeline that would service that whole area would have been the one coming up 112, correct? Because the main line on which drawing, I can't remember which drawing it was, there is one water main that's going up 112, basically.
it's from the house?
Yeah, that ties in from the, just trying to find it. It was on your map.
And that was gonna be my next question is, does it make sense that that district could be done,
Sooner than,
yeah, on its own without having to have feeder lines further back?
Who pays?
Yeah,
The developer, whoever wants it.
Yeah, but Jeff wants to develop, the others don't. Who pays?
yeah. It's
Right?
it's another Spitzy Crossing scenario with so many
That's right.
owners.
So here's my question, Sarah. So, lot line adjustments, easy to deal with.
Yeah.
If there's not 2 parcels, east and west split now, you're saying they cannot do that until full servicing is provided to them.
That's how policy 4.3.8 is written right now.
I don't
Kind of
think-
looking to John.
I don't think we can do that.
Okay,
I think that's a hard no for
Okay.
myself,
Okay.
because you're handcuffing.
Mhm.
Because the town is not going to put in municipal servicing along 112 to do that.
Mhm.
Jeff's not gonna pay for it all on his own when
Right.
nobody else wants to, right?
Yeah,
We have to find out we have to find an interim way, like Kathy said, that find out interim servicing, so like you said, if you can do it on wells and septic,
Okay.
knock your socks off. If you can't, well then, that's what handcuffs that property. As well, we have to be able to provide access, them some way to access that property. And keeping that buffer room for that east road, that they can't develop over top of that, where that east road would be.
Yeah, like Craig said, like you leave that, that's designed, so that isn't part of your property anymore.
Yeah.
But at least be able to build and not make it, as we refer to, a tent city up there.
And when you add, sorry, Garth,
Go ahead.
when you add that sewer and water, if we allow them to add the sewer, they do that at the risk that maybe tomorrow a developer comes in and offers them all $1 bazillion to sell their properties, and oh well, they've just invested in a well and a septic tank, but that's the risk they're taking in order to maybe get 20 years of commercial business out of there or not.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Jeff and I are gonna be in bunk beds in the manor by the time that takes place, right?
You already
We're talking a long, you're talking 2050? That's very optimistic.
Yeah.
If we use Spitzy Crossing, which is similar with the number of landowners and everything, if we use that as an example, okay.
And I just think we really need to be clear when these processes are happening, that this is a little bit out of the norm, but know that, you know, we just have to be clear why we're allowing it and why we're not allowing certain things. But I just feel the way it works today, written today, is we are tying their hands. Why did we go through this process? Because they're no farther ahead than they were 6 months ago. They couldn't do anything 6 months ago, and without being able to have septic and water, they can't do anything 6 months from now, when it's been approved.
Vicky's got something.
Yes.
Totally different question, actually. On your 3.4 development pathway, I'm just looking, it goes from area structure plan to neighborhood outline plan to rezoning to. The subsequent steps all require a cost to High River. Like the neighborhood outline, I'm assuming your department would be involved in the neighborhood outline plan,
No.
rezoning, the subdivision.
The developers will be taking that on.
So they provide a neighborhood outline plan, but who reviews it, who approves it, who?
Oh, yes, so the planning department would be reviewing it, but there's a cost associated with that. So they would have to pay our application fees.
Okay. So,
Staff review it, the council approves it.
yeah, that part I get, it's just the paying part. So you'll, in the neighborhood outline plan, your application form will build in the cost of you to review it, because that can't be reviewed in isolation.
That's
The
correct.
rest of
I'll
the-
just open up our fees and charges bylaw to confirm how much it is, but it is several $1,000s.
And while you're opening that up, does that apply to the employment areas or just the residential areas?
So everything that's to the west of 112th Street will require a neighborhood outline plan, and the ones to the east, just because there is so much development already, it's so divided up, we're not requiring the neighborhood outline plans. Our policies do speak to a concept plan or a master plan, like we were talking about today, but that's really to make sure that we're giving ourselves enough space for that future road to make sure that everything can fit together. So for neighborhood outline plans, which is what the landowners who own property to the west of 112th Street, they're the ones that have not dealt with their municipal reserve requirements yet, things of that nature. They're going to be paying the town $4,000 flat rate, and yeah, there's no cost per hectare, so it's a $4,000 application form.
Thank you.
Sarah, if I may, back on the question of council, Jonathan Schmidt with the consultant team. we should just get some clarification around if council's vision long-term is that that is not required to be a service area, then that changes some aspects of the ASP, for that area, and it could be significant. We also have to look into whether the service and employment district in your land use bylaw requires full servicing, and if it does or doesn't, and if a new district would have to be created in alignment with this ASP, as well as other town policies, if the long term is to not require that to be fully serviced.
For me, it's long-term to be fully serviced.
Yeah, long-term is the temporary idea to be able to let them proceed until the fact that the long-term service connects to them, I believe.
So if I may, the more interim development that happens, the more it's very hard to control that through the ASP policies and really direct that long-term vision as unserviced. Because if you want it to be fully serviced, then you have to, at some level, constrain temporary development so you can get those services in there eventually. And you can develop it to an urban standard and an urban intensity. If you allow those temporary developments at an unserviced level, they're gonna have space for septic fields, that kind of thing, they're gonna spread out. And to get full servicing there in the long term is gonna be very, very challenging. Chestermere's tried that with the East acreages, not a lot of development there. And so I think you have to kind of pick a lane at some level. I just caution against allowing a lot temporary if you want it to be fully serviced. If you don't want it to be fully serviced in the long term, that's totally fine. Allow unserviced development to occur as it may. But I think you're gonna hamstring yourself in the future around fully servicing.
I agree, to a point. It's not gonna be easy. It's just dealing with, you know, trying to put an ASP over the top of already developed properties that we don't know what it's gonna look like is difficult. There's no question, but I think it's just something we have to do. There's no way around it. And I appreciate what you're saying about other policies and stuff, but we can absolutely make this a site-specific.
Just that corridor.
Just that corridor as, you know,
Yeah.
subsections to some policy, right? That this one's different, and we've known this from day one, that this is going to be unique in how we go through this. But Jonathan, you're right, like it has to be very well defined as to what this thing is and what you are and you can and can't do. And yet, development, it would be always referenced as, you know, if you're doing septic, if you're doing well, it's temporary until the main comes in.
You're just delaying inevitable. You're just passing it off to the next person to have to deal with more development on the area.
And where do you think we are right now? We're dealing with what was passed off to us.
I know, but
This is part of the gig.
if they have septic and can use it for whatever they wanna put on it now, that's fine. But to say they can still keep adding septic and they can still keep adding sewer without going through, you know, like, if it can be phased, there could be a way to go about that. It doesn't all have to be done at the same time, I can see that. But just to keep allowing them to keep developing is just gonna cause even more issues down the line that somebody else has to deal with.
It all comes down to, do you want to alleviate it? Well, then the town ponies up and services 112th. If you want to avoid that, then we're taking it on. To the tune of, what would that? Chris just sucked the air out of the room there. Like, that's a multi-million-dollar project.
I know,
right,
I
to do
agree,
that.
I
So,
agree. But if there's developers out there who wanna develop, that's part of developing, right?
It is, but who pays? Do you and I pay for that?
Well, no.
You will be if the town takes it on.
Well, why
You will
is
be.
the town taking it on?
Pardon me?
Why is the town taking it on?
Well, because Jeff can't afford to do that all by himself. He's not gonna do that.
Nobody would.
right? There's not one individual out there, even 2, 3, that are gonna pony up
Yeah.
$10 million to
Oh, so-
service 112. 'Cause
So that's
you
what I'm
gotta-
saying, like, what could it be done in phases? So you're saying all 112 has to be done at the same time?
Oh, I think the initial, let's just say we're looking at, because Jeff's in the room, let's just say we're just going to service Jeff's. So we gotta plumb into Jeff's property, we gotta dig up 112, because you need the mains coming in and out. Like,
Yeah,
you are at a minimum, I'm gonna spitball $7 million just to get Jeff's service. Because you have to put in the full mains back to Little Bow for wastewater, or back to Little Bow for storm. Would you have to do storm? You could probably avoid storm, but you gotta do the lift station tie-ins. At that point in time, you'd probably do the lift station upgrade. Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. And you'd have to bring your water main in, all to where, well, I think that'd be,
Well, I guess, I'll just kind of throw in some things as well, because there is potential for an interim policy statement that allows, based upon parcel size and based upon securing easements so that you can run your utilities properly, and it goes back to that master concept plan. So if Jeff wants to come in with a master concept plan and he wants to subdivide into 2 parcels, for example, and that may be a 5-acre limit that you put on there from a size perspective, so you can accommodate sewage and get your distances for wells from your sewage treatment system. You could kind of create that aspect, but you need to also protect those easements for any water lines and sewer lines that are going to be coming in the future that are going to bisect that property.
Exactly.
And so you have to make sure that that's protected and that corridor is protected through an easement or a right-of-way agreement from that perspective. So there are tools. I think, hearing the conversation, I think there's tools to get to an interim policy. It may not be the ultimate of outright build-out, but there is a potential tool that you can allow, a 5-acre parcel or whatever it may be to hive off a homestead or something along those lines, and steer clear of panhandle parcels too, because that's also a struggle, is dealing with panhandle parcels. But it goes back to that master concept plan for those eastern properties to say, hey, what do you want to do? What's the ultimate? And what can we fit in the interim on a well and wastewater servicing perspective?
here's the other thing, as soon as you do it for one, they're all gonna be at the table.
Yeah.
None of them are going to wanna be on their well water any longer if you've got town water sitting next door. They will all come, same as we saw the Kaylee line going south, right? How many illegal connections are on that Kaylee line, Kingmore?
I'm not gonna say.
Yeah, thank you, right? So they weren't allowed to tee off there.
Well, there is value to that as well, right? Like, for the landowners, who, there's value to having that.
Well, and the other key restriction is going to be, related to the fact that we've heard clearly that the water system can't, for those employment areas, can't deliver fire flows. So depending on what the use actually is and what the actual employment use, there's a different fire flow calculation for storage versus an occupied building that has 50 employees in it, right? So there's kind of different standards from that perspective of what you can achieve. And so, that interim policy's got to take that into reflect too, about the life safety perspective and whether or not we have the capability to fight an effective fire there, depending on what the industrial use actually is.
Can there be a trigger point that, and this may not be the fairest way, but can there be a trigger point where there's a limit set? So we're gonna allow for 5 potential subdivisions. Once we hit that 5, that's it. Either you all gotta come to the table and you gotta service that area, you gotta get everybody on board or find a developer or something, but we allow, again, I don't know if there's a fair way, but I just wondered if there was a trigger point that then absolutely no more septic, no more well water, then we have to start to look at the full servicing.
I don't think you can ever segregate them like that.
I think council, you've identified the question of this area structure plan, and it's a lots along the east corridor, and how much do you let them go towards development prior to doing that on a temporary versus permanent basis. Policy-wise, we certainly can craft some policies about deferred reserve guarantee, or sort of deferred connection guarantees, where if there is a subdivision, when servicing is there, they must then connect to that infrastructure at their cost when it's available. My suggestion would be is that we've heard you, and we take this one away and we craft some of those options for what new policies could look like, and what that might look like from an expense perspective to service up 112. That's just another option. And then we bring that back to council as a committee of the whole, and again, just have this discussion based off of the trial balloon here of this draft didn't hit the mark. Here are some other options for how this area could be accommodated. And then there will be something to speak to, actual new policies or a new approach to speak to.
I think the draft overall was good. I think there's just some things in it that we're seeing from previous experience too that they just need to be augmented there, right?
Yeah, and I'm just saying there's more than one way to solve that problem. So, to re-engage at a later date with those options presented to council, and then letting you provide some feedback on the pros and cons of each of those. And then that could get interjected into the draft to move it forward.
Okay.
In the letter we received too from the landowners, one of the questions talked about low impact development. What is that? They're talking about stormwater and the cost of stormwater, and of course it's expensive. And they say an alternative is low impact development. I had a question about what is low impact development?
One toilet only.
Yikes.
I should have said pit praise. Go ahead. You typically, you know, if you want to, in simple terms, it's ditches versus pipe system for stormwater. Local retention of stormwater on sites, using the road right-of-ways to absorb water, absorptive areas, rainwater gardens, those types of things that are low-impact development. Now, don't get me wrong, they also have a cost, right?
Yeah.
There's still a cost, there's a short-term cost that capitalized that's probably a little bit less, but if you're gonna do them right, they're probably about the same cost, and then your long-term maintenance is a little bit higher. Now, is it the right thing to do? I'll probably beat the drum on low-impact development over and over and over again, because I think trying to maintain stormwater on site reduces the pressure on the rest of the system that it has to pump through and go through from that perspective. And we need to kind of flip that mentality a bit on always piping our stormwater system and looking at ways to kind of keep it above ground and making sure that it's not impacting the systems and flooding aspects of things from that perspective. So that also includes reducing the amount of impervious surfaces, lot coverage, paving rear lanes as an example too, and using the dedicated spaces that we can to absorb that water on site and match what the National Building Code talks about retaining stormwater on site.
Okay.
So it's simply put, it's ditches, right? A simple way of putting it.
So if I'm understanding this correct, this is not encouraging that.
It's traditional development, urban development.
The housing part of it.
The whole
Thing.
thing is encouraging traditional urban development.
Because I'm gonna make the assumption that when they talked about the technical reports being over-engineered, this is exactly what they were talking about.
Well, yeah, because at the end, you got to remember they're high-end estimates and high-end based upon what the development yield is targeting at a minimum 20 units per hectare, as well as the employment areas from that perspective, and the amount of impervious surface. Right, so they're doing all the storm calcs based upon 11-meter wide roads, 6-meter paved lanes, all that type of stuff, and coming up with a number. And so those are the things that we have to think about. Right?
So I guess where I'm going from is in that perspective, I mean, especially for the employment district, I like your idea of not putting all of that pressure on the stormwater system and that, so wondering if we should be looking at that separately versus the residential. I mean, I don't know how much more the ditch can take, it's already pretty
Yeah,
full.
yeah, and certainly that ditch, you know, based upon its construction and the materials within that road is causing, you know, the fact that the water's not moving and not absorbing properly, is causing some grief on that road for sure, getting sub-base. So, you know, I think there's those things that we can take a look at, and I think there's options, again, you know, options to retain water on site, and different methodologies that are out there that, you know, could reduce the cost. And, you know, I looked at that stormwater report and $40 million, you know, even though that's got 30% contingency in there, that's today's dollars. By the time we actually start constructing it, it's probably gonna need more than 40 million, right? So I think, you know, looking at other options that are effective for the town to operate and maintain, while also effective to encourage either interim development to take place or permanent development to take place, to take a look at those kind of structures.
Would stormwater on site though take up more space on their lands? And
Yeah,
are they
it could.
responsible for it?
It could. Yeah.
Okay.
In kind of along those lines, the direction from the town to the consultant team was try to optimize future development on the site, right? And that's where this whole conversation goes, is if you want more of a rural standard east of 112, more rural style development, including, you know, the businesses that are there, that's totally fine. However, you don't necessarily optimize your return on investment for that municipal infrastructure long term, because you're not gonna get the intensity of development. And so there's always trade-offs, right? So the reports were written with optimizing it at an urban standard and an urban intensity, and then you need pipes, right? But, you know, as said, if you have more space on the land, you have more dispersed development so that you can absorb the stormwater on site, you're not gonna get as much tax assessment off it, but you might save down the road in terms of the other piped infrastructure for stormwater. You just have to kind of, you know, figure out what that path is, and I think Corey's idea of proposing some options with the different trade-offs is a good one, so.
And I'd also like to add to Jonathan's point, when he talks about, you know, we were anticipating it to ultimately build to a full urban standard. We were also directing the consultant team to look at it from the perspective of all of these lands would ultimately be rezoned to a town of High River zone, in this case, this service and employment district. However, to make this a more of a unique context, which it is, perhaps one of the things we could consider is a specialized zone, because I think it would be very challenging to allow developments to be built to more of a rural context while still looking at it through the lens of the service and employment district. I'm thinking that we might need to also look at the zoning in our look at this to really understand how the zoning might fit in, because what I'm hearing is something more unique. But I think to make that happen, we also need to look at our zoning. That will be, because right now the properties are still under the Foothills County land use bylaw.
Sarah, one of the things we did kind of throw out early on was that idea of a live-work district, so it might fall somewhere along that notion.
Yep.
Sarah, 5th Street, I was surprised to see it go with 4 lanes. Can you tell me why?
Jonathan, I think it's just because of the anticipated truck traffic, right? And again,
On
when
5th?
On 5th, yeah. Just anticipated traffic in
Yeah, I think it's
general,
just
right,
volume.
Jonathan? Just because of the full build-up, we're expecting 8,000 people to be living here, and we really were anticipating full optimized urban build-out from a traditional neighborhood district and service employment district perspective. Did I get that right, Jonathan? Or is there anything
Yeah, I
to
believe
that?
so.
Okay.
Didn't we talk about it being 2?
Pardon me?
Didn't we talk about wanting it to be stay 2?
So yeah, I may or may not have been there, Kathy, but, you know, I keep looking back at 12th Avenue, right?
and it does not need to be 4 lanes. I guess.
Well, right
So
now
that's
it
why-
doesn't, but if this was all built, you might, I mean, and that's in many years.
4 lanes going where? Straight into 2 lanes when you hit the canal, right? So are you gonna twin everything all the way through town?
But if you take it away, then you're having to build it back up at some point, right? Like if you were to take 12th and just cut it down to 2, there'd be, I mean, that's going backwards. It's easier to go, I think, forward right now. Whoever decided to make 12th Ave 4 lanes, it is what it is, right? We came off of a 4-lane road, or a 2-lane highway, I guess, 4 lanes actually, the way it's set up.
Came off a 4-lane highway, but not with 4-lane highway traffic. That's what I'm saying, is that, like, it's too big. Like 12th Avenue is way too big right now. Like, you're looking so far into the future as to like, what do you know,
Yeah.
12th Avenue only needs to be 2 lanes with center turning lanes.
And I think that our consultants put
That's all it
that
needs.
in.
You rarely,
Have you
you
been to
know,
the
you're
land
getting,
festival?
we got Albert looking.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you got our bylaw guys that are clocking people over 100 kilometers an hour on that thing, which, no shit. You build it to 4-lane highway standard, you're gonna get 4-lane highway speed sometimes, right?
Yeah.
I catch myself doing over 60K easily on that thing. Nobody's around me. You know, like,
Yeah.
I'm coming out of co-op, the next vehicle's going up the hill at the rec center, right? Like, this is where we need to continue, and we've had this conversation 1,000 times, Albert, back in the day, right after the flood, as to this the size of roads that we build for what? Just so you're not near somebody else, just so you maybe don't have to follow some, you know, somebody that drives the speed limit and you wanna do 60, you know, where are you going? That you need 4-lane traffic in High River.
Yeah, but if it grows, you gotta think about that too. And
Where are you going?
well, and they're already complaining about not having a turning signal on this particular lane, like, it's not,
Where do you, for turning signals, where do you need 4 lanes though? You can have turning lanes, Julie, that's what I'm saying, you know, 12th Avenue could just be 2 lanes. And I'm not saying we're rebuilding 12th Avenue, I'm
Right.
just saying it's a perfect example of way overbuilt. Way overbuilt. I don't know when you're gonna need, when that 4 lanes would actually be used to its capacity. Like, that's rank. So that's what I'm saying, Jenny, is like, yeah, it's 50 kilometers in town. Where are you going that you need 4 lanes? If you got turning lanes in the center, that gets that guy out of the way. You know, the other thing that's really sad about Fifth is you're gonna be tearing out Riley's curbs.
Yes.
Yeah. Riley has mentioned that.
You know,
Imagine how fast you would drive if they weren't there, Craig.
I'm gonna have a funeral service for you, Riley, just not for you, for the curbs.
It was a waste of money.
Can I just answer?
Yeah.
Councilor Barton, your question, you know, I think you can still protect the right of way for, you know, 100 years down the road if you may need 4 lanes, knowing that, you know, you don't have the right of way width after the canal, right? And then you're gonna have to expropriate lands from that perspective. Now, the strategy you employ too is divide your traffic. Design the neighborhood so that instead of all going to Fifth, that they can go either way, right, effectively. And so an effective method is that you're creating 4 lanes by using 112th or 20th or whatever we want to call it today, and 5th to move that traffic to the north and or to the south. And so using those types of tools and using, you know, your road network and the space that you have effectively without building a 4-lane road. I believe 4-lane roads destroy small towns. I think they destroy it, they ruin the character, and that they're really, truly, again, you go back to the fact that your speed limit is going to be 40 or 50, and where are you trying to get to, the difference in speed and from one end of town is like 30 seconds. Like, let's be honest. And so we can use our road network effectively to create 4 lanes to get to where people have to get, as long as they're given those choices to go either way, right? So it's about kind of creating that road network that makes some sense, that links very effectively, that gives people the choice to go different directions.
Alberta will remember they wanted 4 lanes on Center Street, right? We said no.
When you have a $60 million bridge, you'd have to change the.
Well, exactly, but, you know, that's what Center Street was, that's where they were headed with it. It's 4 lanes right through the heart.
So you protect the right of way, you protect the space, and then you can.
I'm fine with that.
You can have arterial pathways in there, you can have bike lanes dedicated as well for different modes of transportation, and build from there. And so I think that's, you know, those are the types of things that you try and protect.
My one concern too is just coming off of, I know this is in Fifth, but it's the other entrance that goes into the industrial or employment area. That, I think we need to give some consideration going into those areas with big truck traffic, because we already have problems with truck traffic at No Frills. And then you add the slope into it, right, that's another problem, so.
Yeah, the standard for, you know, certainly the standard probably is not a 4 lane, but you're probably dealing with a much wider asphalt surface to accommodate the truck traffic and the turning radiuses that you need. Especially because we do see some V trains coming through there, so, you know, you make sure you have the turning radiuses and you make sure the corners are effective from that perspective, you know, and making sure they have a really clear road to get to 498 from that perspective.
Anybody else? Councilor Coot?
Sorry, just a couple more quick ones. Well, I don't have the landowner's concern letter in front of me, but they talked about the 40% concession. Sorry, again, I don't have the letter in front of me. Jenny, do you have
Was
it?
it the 40% lot coverage?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you just address their concerns there and our rationale behind that one?
So, yes, I believe that was speaking to the market analysis. And in the market analysis, which was done by one of V3's subcontractors, they specifically spoke to lot coverage. And they talked about 40% being what they were kind of basing a lot of their rationale and a lot of their recommendations to the town on. And I think that one of the reasons they were bringing up 40% is because, again, it was their understanding that the town of High River wanted to optimize, like Jonathan said, the return on investment. And in that market analysis, it speaks to the acknowledgement that a lot of any municipality's tax base comes from that non-residential employment use. And more tax dollars can come from those uses if the lot coverage is enhanced, right? If we are looking at uses that are mostly outdoor storage, not so much the buildings, the town of High River, just like any community, will be getting a lower tax rate. So that market analysis document that was done by Ryan Consulting, they spoke a lot about the 40% because it was their understanding that the town of High River was looking for opportunities, suggestions, recommendations to really optimize this area, both in terms of the tax rate that the town would be getting back, but also in terms of amount of people that they can be employing, also in terms of the return on investment that the developers, that the employers are going to see on their side. So that's really where that market analysis study by Wernick Consulting was coming from, just their own professional opinions.
It also, in one of the documents too, it also shows that the different industrial types would have different requirements, so it's not a bylaw, right?
No,
Okay,
no,
it was
it's
just
just
part of that.
recommendations.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was my question, because it did show different types of industry and what could be required.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
40% wasn't,
Yeah, they were talking
Set in
about
stone.
trends, they were talking about recommendations that the town could certainly take and implement, again, just, and they were working with the understanding that the town of High River really wanted to optimize this for return on investment, both from a municipal perspective as well as an employer perspective.
One last question, I promise. Talk about signage in the bylaw, and that there's no signage on the highway, and I can appreciate and understand that, but I just want to make sure that if they have a building there, they can have signs on their building that face the highway to promote what they're doing. Like they have right now, when you look at Tractorland and the other implement dealers, they have them on the sides or the back of their building.
Right, so this policy comes from our town plan, and in our town plan, it does also speak to not having signs facing the highway, and the town has, the Development Authority has interpreted that as we would not have signs on the backs of buildings, just facing the public realm within the community. So that is how the planning division and the development authority has been operating, not approving signs facing the highway.
But does that, but they can put it on the side,
On the side, like
Just direct-
facing the into.
northwest, north-south, sorry.
Right, so it just wouldn't be able to face the highway. It would only be able to face
Which is,
within the public realm of the town, so, like towards, for example, towards 24th Street, when we're talking about the industrial area that we already have, they can certainly have signs facing in the community, but it's not to face the highway.
right.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more value having it on the north-south ends. More traffic's gonna see it, but
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure that was,
I can open up the policy in the town plan.
it's there.
Okay.
I mean, we're doing it, so we
Yeah.
must allow it.
And some of them are older, so.
It's gonna happen anyway with the service road.
Like Klaus is on both the,
Yeah, Klaus
Both
has it
sides.
on,
it's on both sides, it faces there, one side
No.
is face out.
It's gonna happen anyway because of the service road, Sarah.
That's right, absolutely.
Yeah.
thank you, Riley.
So the service road would become a frontage essentially,
Yeah.
right, so they could still have
You
signage.
could have signage fronting the service road, which is essentially the highway. If you go back to why that policy exists, there was a lot of conversation with council in terms of, we don't wanna look like Red Deer with a bunch of empty lots and just unattractive
Agreed.
on the highway. And so that's where that stems from.
No, I totally. see
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so this is a question and answer for everybody, is it not? Number 4? On here, Craig? This opens it up.
Opens it up, but I think we're already done that
Okay.
for the topic.
For confident.
But isn't it question and answer because it's a committee of the whole that,
Yeah,
like, can,
well, if Jeff has questions,
Yeah.
Albert has, or can do this.
okay, so we'll just open it up if there's any questions from anybody around the room. More than happy to take them.
So, yeah, so, I think our area is unique, and I mean, I've talked to council members and that, with especially the properties on 112th Street on the east side, because we've already started with the MD developing our lands. And I don't understand, and what kind of floored me is we agreed to do the ASP because we were supposed to be able to move on and build, was one of the things that was always talked, and we get to the 11th hour now, and all of a sudden we can't build, which floors us if we don't hook into the utility system in the town. Now, there's lots of businesses in the city of Calgary, on the outskirts and all over the place that are controlled. When I did my subdivision with the MD in the town, I had to have water reports, where it flows, where I control the water. what I use for water, septic, all that goes through that process already. So I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel on 112th Street. I think a phase in, I like the idea that you guys are talking about a phase in that, you know, we're not gonna, Craig and I have talked about this before, that, you know, both of us will be dead probably before we see the road go through there, right? So it could be a long time. What we're gonna do, if we force the landowners to actually have to pay for huge infrastructure to go out there, they can't afford it, like Craig said, and nothing will happen. So you're gonna have a bunch of land sitting there, waiting for somebody to make a move and start run some utilities out. So we gotta really balance this. I'm not into getting away with anything. I pay my fares. I'm the first guy to say, yes, I'll pay taxes for what I need, but, you know, the road alignment, we have to discuss that. We've gone over and over with the ASP. We've come back and forth with that. I don't know where this latest one came from. Nobody knows where the latest one came from going along the highway, and we see a lot of issues with the pipeline and Corey's location, and now they've got a twice the size paving station that was just finished this last month behind Corey's. I don't understand how a road can go there. And we did discuss in open meetings with council where that road would align the best if we're gonna put that road through there. And for some reason, it never got put to a map or a suggestion. So I don't know where we've lost the communication with the planning group and with what we've done. I can understand, you know, everybody's points of view on that, but I'm just giving you the landowner's point of view of where I'm at. I mean, I'm at the point that if I can't sell my business or do anything with it, and I'm ready to retire, right? And somebody wants to put a shop on there, you got vacant land again. Then I shut her down, and I tell my land to be reverted back to, I guess, whatever you wanna call it, country residential. I don't pay commercial tax, and it sits there, and maybe forever, I don't know. But I'm just saying, we've gotta be able to move forward with that. And I agree transitioning into the town system and everything else, but it's a unique set of land. What the planners are talking about is a big chunk of farmland, right? And I get that. It's easy, because you go, hey, developer come in, you gotta put roads and infrastructure, and that's what they're used to. I don't think, and I see it everywhere in every town, the small fragmented ones that nothing gets done with, I think that's where everything gets lost. And if, as a town, we can see through that, we can develop things better going forward, and this is a prime example of what we've got here.
So speaking to the road, Jeff, it was discussed, like Corey had shown me his drawing you guys had talked about with it kind of snaking through things. So that gets very, very difficult with, you know, who gets that road, who doesn't, which one does it cut through and everything else. So that's why we thought, let's just bring it, and it was council that decided that. They brought us the options, and we landed on the service road up at, on the east end. Primarily so that 112th would be the residential access to the way it is now, homes on the west side of those properties, and then the commercial access on the east on that service road that goes around. But just cutting it through and bringing it across alleviates that snaky thing and the landowner issues that would be there as to who gets it, who doesn't, who wants it cutting through, who doesn't want it splitting their property. Goes along there, you got your business access from the east, and you got your residential access from the west. That's just how simple it had to get that simple to be fair and equitable for.
Yeah, and if that's the only solution you got, I mean, that's something that has to be brought up with the group. And I mean, if it's even doable, I don't know how you do that with, if Corey Shop's gonna be in the way, or, and I do believe there's some allowances that ACO Gas has to do now, because they pig on that side, and they need to have full access in that side to do the pigging. I've been involved in that side of the industry, so it's not, you know, it becomes a big hazard if you have traffic right by, so I'm sure they got some sort of relaxation you need. So, and I guess if the planning is to no longer have Corey Shop there, is when you build the road, 25 years or whatever, you know what I mean? I would just looked at it as, and that's why I said from day one, if we had that Google Maps overlay, and then we all came and actually spent some time on it, it would have been nice if we kind of had a consensus of where the road can go.
Yeah, can I just send this to Jody, and then you'll display it, because we do have what you're talking about, Jeff. Okay.
And on the servicing end, Jeff, that's exactly what we were bringing back to the consultants, is that there has to be some type
Sorry,
of
we're just gonna
intern
put
there.
it.
Oh,
rather
okay,
than
great,
waiting
great.
for 100%.
No, I'm good with it.
Sorry. Okay, there we go. So consultants provided this to us today for our meeting tomorrow. And it shows the side-by-side comparisons that we brought to Committee of the Whole back on May 25th. The first one is option 1, and it has the frontage road going as close to the highway as possible to avoid all of this development. And then this one has the existing 20th Street and it goes down here. We didn't snake it through the properties again because we wanted to keep the equity piece and not provide parcels that were not at right angles. But then we do need to have a road going through this property down here to get to 24th Street. But it's the same as this one. The road is just to the north through this property and then down to 24th Street.
So can I show kind of where we're suggesting, right?
Yeah.
So the vast majority of our group agreed that this goes straight, follows straight through. Corey's shop line finishes there, his shop. I've got that just as storage, right? That's not affecting me, any of these in here. And it divides them nicely on either side for subdivision, for having, businesses on both sides. And it basically almost just straight lines down to here. There's not much for curves except where you get back up here into here.
What happens with Corey's, like if it goes right, the alignment would go right through Corey's?
Well, this is Corey's back shop and his shop. Well, this isn't I can't see this being here because that's right on the pipeline. So now if we jog it over, we're right here, or right the back door of his shop. You couldn't even get out of his shop.
So would you go up to the
In
west
front
side?
of
We would go right here.
Okay, so essentially almost splitting the property.
Yeah, I mean, Greg and Juanita haven't built out here any further. They've got room there. They could develop on that side or, work with that. None of this is affected through here. And it almost, if you actually get the map down here, it doglegs this way, right? It almost runs perfect alignment with that one.
But Jeff, then you end up with these tiny little, dinky little properties on the east side of that road between that service road and the highway.
Not really, cause I mean, if you put a line where mine is, this is mine here. Like if you put the road through here, which is really the width of the road alignment, this is 4 acres. That's pretty good size,
It is.
And then you've got, the road here, and this is 4 acres. This is 6 acres right now, so it kind of gives you an idea. And this is Corey's fence line here from the front of his shop. Like there's nothing in here, that's his storage area, right? So it does, I don't know, I think
There's some merit to that from a standpoint of you would have 3 frontages, right? One going right through the middle, and you have a lot on the east side of that, you'd have a lot on the west side of it, and then you'd have access essentially from
Residential
the
access on the other side.
Yeah.
And consensus with the group is what they've always said was this, and I don't know why, we never get a drawing with what our consensus has been when we've sat down and written it out. I mean, we changed it in here, some stuff has changed in here, we've discussed about that. It could join up in here somewhere or whatever, and the other thing is to consider is I've subdivided, Corey's subdivided, Larry's subdivided. There's no consideration that these roads are already put in for a road allowance. So it splits off traffic. Like if they wanted to utilize that, I would have liked to see a drawing utilizing already the existing divisions that some of us have done here for road allowances.
Right.
Like it only makes sense, right? I mean, we may not use all of them once we do that, but that creates more of the grid pattern that we had before to service, so you get less traffic or the right traffic going on the right road. But anyways, that's.
I think and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris maybe, I think one of the main reasons that this was the preferred alignment, that as we go forward, because there's so many multiple owners, that this was the easier alignment to move that area forward. I'm not explaining myself very well.
No, you are,
Maybe- yeah.
that's exactly right, Kathy, like I totally get what you're saying, Jeff. You've just got a lot of points, I don't know what this ATCO pipeline's all about in the picking station and everything, I don't know how big or anything that is, and, you know, Corey's shop, well, expensive, but shops can be moved if it's that important. But can we, what are your thoughts on working around that with this alignment? I'm looking at V3.
On the east, the current kind of location of it on the far east
I'm
side?
talking about, what are your thoughts on what Jeff was just talking about?
Yeah, we had some initial concepts of it running right up the middle, and those got thrown out over time. I'm not exactly
Yeah.
sure why, but they did.
They went to Corey's house.
No, they, what preliminary alignment at that point?
Yeah, our argument was not, we had a problem with that, our argument was that the way it was aligned, it was going over people's property and buildings, it was way too far to one end.
Yeah.
So we said, just give us a Google Maps imposed drawing over top of this, which we actually had to do manually at one of our ASP meetings to show, and that's when, Chuck was there, I don't know, yeah, Garth, Kathy, I think you were there.
At the very end, that's where Corey's
Yeah,
saying
remember
that-
we were kind of open, and you know, this is the kind of dialogue I want, and unfortunately, we didn't really get this from this. But I thought that was a real crucial part to this area, is where this road would go through, and I thought it should be a priority and should have been dealt with probably in the early stages, but.
So Jonathan, what if we got a rendering that comes straight off of here? Like Jeff was saying, there's Corey's shop, it kind of cuts Corey's property and.
Yeah, that's nice, and that's the cheapest, right?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of benefit, which is why the initial concepts were kind of up the middle, for the lack of a better term, so that you would get that double frontage as discussed, so that you could optimize, you know, developing both sides of the property. You also probably optimize, Riley, correct me, servicing, because then you got another place you put servicing in.
Like if this is enough, like you're saying this is 4 acres on each side,
Yeah.
well, yeah, now you got triple.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I always thought that would be too skinny to really do anything with, but.
And still do the same thing, go up like you had where it's.
But let's remember, just one piece is if you've got development on all these little skinny pieces, their back end is gonna be finished facing the highway. That's gonna be the look. The highway, right? Which is,
And you're also
Tractor line,
bringing that
everybody,
traffic
tractor line,
through
everybody.
residential.
RV place.
yeah, it's not that,
A little bit of
it's gonna be
fencing.
what it is.
Now, all the truck traffic would come in
4,800 Aspens and you're
on
down.
Fifth Street.
Right, but what do you think, can we get, I think we just need, in order to get this, we need to have some kind of look.
Like that.
So then I think the original concept had it just coming
Yeah.
down like that, something like that.
Yeah,
So
we
we still
just
had
down,
this,
down.
we still wanted to square it out.
Still squared up?
So
Nothing coming-
Well,
wouldn't
come
that
down,
still
so I think
bring
how
all
it
your
went.
truck traffic in via Fifth Street?
no.
No,
That's
Where else
20th
is it gonna go?
it's
No,
coming,
you wouldn't come
it's
down
coming
20th.
right there.
And you, the T forces them to use this, whereas if you have the sweep, they'll still come down 112th, and then we'll continue to have the problems here and down by the school. So there's a desire to have this T to force them onto this secondary road.
Yeah.
Well, and the other option, Craig, is just, much like what we've done here, and the cheaper option is just upgrade 112th Street fully, leave that, save the money and all that, and do a dog leg almost in between, like that's already an allowance, right?
Yeah, but that's how
Talk to
you
Larry and talk to Brad Shell,
Yeah.
and you come in through here and there, and you save yourself a fortune going up there, and then everything taps down into here, and this just, like, I mean, I built, my vision here was a business park, right? So I've done it like a business park, everybody, it's gated, you come in, one business is here, one business is here, you know, and if everybody kind of conformed or kind of did the same thing, then it would work that way too. I don't know, that's just.
But I don't
one of-
think we want all that big truck traffic coming right through residential, that's the whole point.
Well,
is
it
to
isn't,
offer
if you do this, you're not in residential.
Yeah, but you are on
On
the
this
road,
side.
this side is all residential. On the
west
west side is
west
all
side
residential.
Oh, you mean along here? Oh, I see
Yeah,
what you mean,
yeah,
yeah, okay.
yeah.
The future, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So if we put them right up the middle, like you were saying, then
Let me
Well,
bring back the
panhandles
previous
cause
slide.
all sorts of problems on their own when it comes to servicing and access as well.
So this was, sorry, make it bigger. This was the original plan that we were talking about, oh, sorry, yeah, so we had this one coming down here, like Jonathan was saying, so I guess we're saying just move it like a little bit over.
Yeah, it was just too far over to the east, yeah. East or west, it's hard to tell without Google.
It's really just about the acquiring the lands for the road, I think that was one of the biggest challenges we saw. That the east alignment made it easier, but
yeah, I think that was part of the discussion.
Yeah.
Well, being that the
it's gonna.
one side is commercial though,
Yeah.
getting back to this being too much truck traffic, you have the option to have this closed off more, like they do with commercial areas, and a sound wall or something, you know what I mean? And you keep that your residential, and you keep, which they do in Calgary all the time, right, on higher traffic and more truck. So you could, and that would be a heck of a lot less doing it that way, and kind of bridging the commercial from the, because we're all ending up in commercial eventually anyway, so really.
But that whole 112th, 20th Street needs to essentially be blown up.
Oh, for sure, I totally agree with that, but this is your opportunity to build it right and only do one road instead of having to do two roads, I guess is what I'm saying.
But two roads allow more servicing connections for infrastructure. Right. It's noon, what do we do?
I think we need another look at that road. And like Chris and I were just talking, like it can't go up the middle because there's the new apartment
Yeah.
development that's going on there right now. You had to look like a nut.
There's another one approved there?
I don't think
No,
I don't think there's anything here.
It's right
It's right
there.
there.
It's right
Yeah,
here.
that's there, it's off to the side.
So it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not quite there, you're right.
Yeah.
But I'm not seeing why we don't just move this a little bit over here.
Well, I think Jeff was saying right to the edge of his parcel, like as in, you go up to his parcels,
Right.
that line roughly
that's
there,
not
because
straight.
it doesn't hit anybody's property then. Then everybody has 4 acres on each, or on the one side.
Yeah, you can run a ruler down there and it pretty well works.
Right.
Perfect.
We need something in order to get this thing moving.
Okay. One other suggestion, sorry, I'm just for the group. One other suggestion was to leave this like this, because it is a good road and it's new. And a roundabout here, your commercial goes here, your residential goes here, flow in and out. Which kind of, it's almost naturally, that's Jeff Callahan's land, and I talked to Jeff about that, he kind of thought that was a good idea too, but.
Jeff Callahan. All right, so we're good?
Yes.
Is everybody good? Okay. We'll adjourn this meeting. I will ask,
No motion needed, you can just adjourn.
I can just adjourn it? Well, I
Yep.
want to get a motion and put up my hands now.
No, you have to.
I mean, you guys can if you want.
Motion to have a
Adjourn the
motion.
meeting at 12:05.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton.
Yeah, you're welcome.